Would you mind putting the AC down just a little bit?
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We are here with Dr. Randy Kale, 40-year veteran in chiropractic.
That's right.
It's true. So
Long trip.
it was a long trip. Yeah, you
Long
came all
trip.
the way from Cumming.
Yeah, that's not far. 30 minutes.
30
No
minutes.
problem.
No
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah. Good to be here.
Well, it's good to be here too. Thank you for coming out.
Well, I'd love to have any opportunity to talk about chiropractic. I
Absolutely.
love it. I mean, so it's like talking about my wife. I've been married to for nearly 40 years. We could,
Yeah.
when I get invited to talk about chiropractic, it'd be like talking to about my wife. I can talk forever. How long do you want to talk about it?
Yeah,
This
for
is
as long as you know it.
Exactly.
Well, she's going to love to hear that, huh?
Well, I hope so.
You're going to get a nice meal when you get
Right,
home.
that's right, that's right. Well, kudos to her. She has been over for 40 years.
Yeah, well, thanks to Ms. Kale, for
Yes,
sure.
it
So, well, you brought up, we were just having a conversation over there, and you brought up a few things that were important to you that I heard.
Okay.
You brought up, one thing that stood out to me was you're incredibly convicted with your family values.
Right,
You're incredibly convicted about your faith with God.
right.
And you came back to chiropractic out of retirement to share a message with everybody.
That's right. That's right. Well, to say the least, I mean, chiropractic is in a position right now, like we had said, we talked about.
Mhm.
I think there's an opportunity in chiropractic right now to make a big impact on the world. And if you look at my logo
Mhm.
and what it says, adjusting the world back to health. And that's really, what my goal is. That's why I'm here today, is because I want to, put my effort into and my commitment into adjusting the world back to health. And when I say adjusting, I'm talking about adjusting.
Yeah.
I'm talking about taking our hands, and putting our hands on people and making the adjustment and making sure that these people's, their vertebrae are like they should be.
Yeah.
Saying that atlas is set properly.
For sure.
I think we've gotten so far away from that yes, I have to come back out of retirement when I see things that I just know are not correct in chiropractic.
For sure.
And I know I've got more of a traditional way of thinking in chiropractic, but there's reasons for that. And as we talk today, I hope that maybe you'll encourage students to see why does Dr. Kale think like this?
Right.
And why did my father think like this? Why did his mentor, Dr. Lyle Sherman, why did he think like he did?
Mm-hmm.
And why did he adjust like he did? I carry this book around, volume 18 to your students.
Yeah.
And Dalton was asking me, what is that? I said, that's the Bible of chiropractic, man. That is the reference right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what it does is it shows in 1934, and after Dr. Palmer had went through and researched and used all these different methods, the Merck method and adjusting all over the spine, he finally came to the conclusion that upper cervical area and the atlas axis was the only area that created a deficiency in the mental impulse. And when I talk about the mental impulse, when we look at a subluxation, and I still talk the word subluxation, I think as chiropractors, we need to stick to that word. We don't need to lose that word in our profession. But the components that make up the subluxation are four components. One, you have a vertebra out of juxtaposition with the vertebra above and below.
Right.
It must occlude a foramina, number two.
Mm-hmm.
And three, it puts pressure on a nerve. All right. And then the fourth component, which is the most important component that I believe in, is that it decreases the mental impulse to the cells of the body.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, you have a subluxation. Now, you can have a misalignment anywhere below C2, and you'll have the three components, all right?
Mhm.
Juxtaposition, the vertebra's out of juxtaposition with the vertebra above and below, occludes a foramen, puts pressure on the nerve, but it does not decrease the mental impulse. That can only happen, I'm not saying that, Dr. Palmer said that, it can only cause a deficiency in the mental impulse at the atlas axis area. So that interested me. Okay?
Yeah.
It really does physiologically, it interests me. And can I explain it this way to you? Our cells must be organized. Innate tries to keep organization, homeostasis in our body. But if the cells are disorganized, what starts to happen? We start to have a decrease in our health. The communication of the cells. So the cells have to have mental impulse. The best way that I can explain the mental impulse to you, without getting into the science of it, so you can understand it very quickly, is if you close your eyes. Dalton, close your eyes right now.
Yep.
Now let me ask you this question. Can you see?
No.
Okay. Well, you
Not
said
with
no.
eyesight.
Okay.
Not with eyesight.
Okay. But is your vision good?
Yes.
So you can see, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can't see because why? Your eyes are closed.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So let me ask you this: if you were to walk around this room right now, if I asked you to walk around this room with your eyes closed,
Right.
what would likely happen?
Well, I probably have to watch out for my shins, considering the adjusting table.
Yeah, and you're going to trip and you're going to fall.
Yeah.
And there's all kind of disorganization going to happen because
Right.
why? The eyes are closed. But But guess what? You still have vision.
Right.
You got the same vision. Okay. There's no problem with that. All right. Now open up your eyes. Now, if you walked around this room with your eyes open, guess what? Very organized. You're not going to trip and stumble.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? All the cells in your body are the same way. 10 trillion cells in your body are the same way. All right. They can work, but if they don't have the mental impulse, all right, it's like their eyes being closed and they're trying to work and do their thing.
Yeah.
All right. Working with each other. But guess what? They're stumbling. They're falling.
Yeah.
And guess what? As that starts to happen, the health starts to fall.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying in chiropractic. If we can get back to understanding the subluxation in its 4 component parts, not just a misalignment, okay? I'm talking about where is the subluxation? Well, B.J. Palmer said the subluxation was in the atlas axis area. He concluded that. Now, what does that man know? Well, he wrote 40 volumes of chiropractic. He is our father of chiropractic. And he had a research center. I don't know if you know much about this, Dalton, but I'll explain this and make sure that the students understand this.
For sure.
All right. Back in the 20s, 30s, chiropractic was seeing the worst of the worst patients. Okay. They were seeing, how was chiropractic discovered? Getting a man's hearing back.
Right.
Okay. All right. It wasn't low back pain. It wasn't neck pain. It restored a man's hearing.
Yeah, totally.
Okay. And you know what? I love to say this because I spoke to a black group the other day.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you about community and loving everybody.
Yeah.
Remember this: if it wasn't for a black man and a white man, there'd be no chiropractic.
Well, there you go.
Can I say that on the listen? Because I'm saying it in love. All right.
Yeah.
This man got his hearing back, which was black, from a white man. Listen, we should all come together. I don't know. Sometimes in this world, it seems like there's so much discard and unlove for people. But beyond that, my point of it is chiropractic was discovered restoring a man's hearing.
Right.
All right. My dad, Dr. Sherman, of course, was the assistant director of the research clinic for 16 years. They had a research center. Dr. Palmer had $1 million research clinic back in the 30s. And it had a medical side with your medical doctors, and it had a chiropractic side.
Right.
And the reason being was people were saying, oh, if you get well under chiropractic, you would have gotten well anyway. You weren't really sick. So Dr. Palmer was tired of hearing that. So he developed a research center and a clinic, multi-million-dollar clinic back in the 30s, which would be $100 million right now.
Yeah.
And he had a medical staff, medical doctors that would come in, they would diagnose the patient. Then when they had their diagnosis that was confirmed by the medical doctors, they would go over to Dr. Palmer and they would do their analysis chiropractically.
Yeah.
Then they would take care of those patients, and once they got better, they would take them back over to the medical doctors to prove that chiropractic, they actually had a problem, and then it was corrected chiropractically, and then back to the medical profession to prove, yes, they got over this. Now, that went on for 16 years.
Yeah.
And like I said, Lyle Sherman was the assistant director. My dad, Michael Kale, practiced with Dr. Sherman. Dr. Sherman told my dad, Dalton, when patients would come in to the research center, they were coming from all over the world. They would be signing in their documents in the reception room and would drop dead. Now, what I'm saying is, I don't think the impact of where we are now with what we're advertising out there on our banners,
Right.
okay, and what chiropractic was based on, where have we gotten from people that are coming from all over the world
Right.
with sickness and neurological issues? How are we now forgetting about all of that? And we're traveling down this road of pain and forgetting about the very essence of health. What about epilepsy? What about tic-douloureux?
Right.
What about Bell's palsy? Okay.
What about diabetes?
What about diabetes? What
Yeah.
about metabolic disorders?
Right,
All these different things that
Right.
we have forgotten about. And so, well, how in our practice can we understand this physiologically and say, hey, or neurologically? Well, that's what Palmer did. So he researched this adjustment for over 16 years, and he found out from his discovery in 16 years, not 2 years, not 5 years, 16 years of only adjusting 2 vertebrae. He concluded, and our father of chiropractic said, that the only way to untorque a torque subluxation in that area of the brainstem with those 4 components is through this atlas and axis adjustment. And he did it on a knee chest table. If we look in the book, he'll tell you, I found that the best way to be adjusted and the way that I get adjusted, he said, was on the knee chest posture. Because in the knee chest posture, the head's turned to the left or right, it's relaxed, and you don't have to worry about, have you over rotated the head like you're doing a rotational adjustment?
Yeah.
All right, the head's there, it's very safe. You make a specific adjustment in a specific way, boom, and it unlocks that torque subluxation that is confining and stressing the brainstem and causing a decrease in that mental impulse, okay? It's closing the eyes of the cells, 10 trillion cells in the body, okay? And that adjustment, boom, it's a switch. The great switch between God and his man is at the atlas, okay? You turn that switch on, and it opens the eyes to the cells. Then they start communicating properly, and the body becomes organized, and you have homeostasis in the body. So that's a beautiful thing. Now, the method that I'm talking about, if we look through the volume 18 and see it's over 5,000 cases, if we look in the back and you start looking at the types of cases that you see there, I've highlighted a few. Just go to the back of volume 18 and start looking at the kind of cases that we're seeing here. All right, we're talking about bronchitis. All right. We're talking about colitis. Okay, constipation, 698. Okay, dizziness, 52. Epilepsy, 41. All right, female troubles. Okay, of course, no wonder I've had, I guess, I don't know, 5 or 6, 7 different patients come in, female patients that couldn't get pregnant. They came in with back pain. We started to adjust them. Next thing you know, they got pregnant. Okay. So I say I was responsible, but in an indirect way. Okay?
My uncle said the same thing. Now, don't go tell your family that your chiropractor got you pregnant.
Exactly. But if you look through, here, high blood pressure, 66. I mean, out of these 5,000 cases, all this nervousness and mental disorders. You know, B.J. Palmer said, listen, we could take the mental hospitals and clear those mental hospitals, because when you have a pressure on the brainstem, not only does it cause a deficiency in the impulse down into the body, but it clogs and congests upward, into the brain.
Two-way
You see what
street.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's there you get your mental problems, all right? So my point of it is I understand this. I've always said this. Look, guys, I am not against therapies. And some of my upper cervical doctors will drag me behind horses on this. But let me just say something. In my practice, I had a sick practice and I had an injured practice. You see
What does that mean?
Well, injured. Okay, you have an injury. Okay,
Yeah.
so a football player comes in and busts his knee up.
Sure.
Okay, or you got someone with an SI issue, or they're having pain. It's more about the pain.
Sure.
It's not about a child with epilepsy. Okay, I had a
Right,
child come in with me a few years ago, 4-year-old, epileptic, and he comes in with a little, what I call a little football helmet, a little leather football helmet,
Right.
because he was banging his head up against furniture.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so he had two pediatric neurologists that was supervising his care. His parents came in and said, "I'd heard that you take on some complicated cases and have gotten some good results. Would you take a look at my child?" And they were telling me how they would have to take padding and put on the corners of all the furniture, wrap it with duct tape, because he would just, he'd be hitting his head and tearing his head up. So he was having 30 to 40 seizures a day.
Yeah.
So I told the parents, "Listen, I'll have to take an x-ray. Let me do my work." I said the vertebra in the top vertebra should be sitting at 8 to 10 degrees. All right. This is another thing. When you're looking at specific chiropractic and Dr. Palmer's research, he found that if this angle on the atlas was too broad, it's like a spark plug gap. If that gap is not just perfect, when it's in a lawnmower or whatever, what will happen? It sputters, it won't crank. Okay, the same thing we have here at the atlas. If we look at a lateral view on the x-ray, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. If that angle is more than 8 to 10 degrees, it's just like that spark plug gap being off. So I told the parents, I said, "Let me look at this." All right. I checked the child out. It was 27 degrees. Okay?
So can we have for reference for the students, like, what is the angle? I'm going to grab.
So if
this.
we're looking, so I'm looking at, if we look, I'm just saying, if we're looking at an atlas, you see here. So you can look at that on a lateral x-ray, or, so we're sitting over here, we're looking here, all right, at the atlas. That angle should be sitting from 8 to 10 degrees when I'm looking from the anterior tubercle to the posterior tubercle. And we measure that from a straight line across. All right.
So to horizontal.
To horizontal.
All right.
There's an angle right there.
Yeah.
There's an angle that's a true angle that the high performance, all right, is between 8 and 10 is when that angle is perfect and it's not putting pressure, should not be putting pressure on the brainstem, and you should be getting a firing communication from the brain to the body properly. So like with this child,
is in full extension.
Yes. So this child, say 8 to 10 is about like that.
Right.
This child was like this. So look at that. If I'm sitting here as the brainstem, that's sitting pretty good. All right. But if this is jacked up there like this, putting a lot of pressure onto the brainstem, no wonder he's having neurological issues.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I showed the parents that. I said, "Listen, all I know is we got to do this. I've got to try to get this positioned properly." And from the education that I had in upper cervical, we laid the child down on the same type of table that B.J. Palmer used, that Lyle Sherman used, Michael Kale used, that I used, and I adjusted the child. Okay, it was an ASLP. Okay, that's a listing. That's a listing saying how is that vertebra sitting in relationship to the occiput. Okay, so it was sitting anterior, left. It was showing from the A to P open mouth. It was showing left. Okay, let's get this clear real quick. B.J. Palmer found, and we used 3 main x-rays. An A to P open mouth, so you got your mouth open. You can look for laterality on the atlas. All right. Of course, a lateral cervical.
Yeah.
And a base posterior. We would look up through into the foramen magnum and see if there's any rotation of the atlas. So you can look at the laterality. All right. You can look at if it's anterior, posterior. Those 3 x-rays will give you that information, and they still do. So anyway, we took the x-ray, adjusted the child. The parents came back 3 days later, and they looked at me and said, "What, Dr. Kale, what have you done to our little boy?" And I took a breath, and I was like, "Oh, what's going to happen here now?"
Yeah.
But actually, I took a breath, and I knew what was going to happen because it had happened before, and I couldn't wait to hear it. And they said the child's not had another seizure in 3 days. Okay, and they've got 2 pediatric neurologists. I said, "Well, that's great news." Okay. Anyway, we kept the child under care. They did wonderful to the point where the parents made a TV commercial for me.
Oh, wow.
On this. So I'm just saying, these are the types of cases, and we could sit here and talk about that all day long. It'll get you excited, but more about.
Can I ask you something about that?
Yes.
Something that we're talking about in our ethics class right now is like what you can or cannot claim in chiropractic. And now, before we go into this, I just want to say that I've talked to many chiropractors, veteran chiropractors, and we all know the power of chiropractic. And we all also are aware that there's like some sort of silencing as to what we can say can and can't do. Now, when you made this commercial, what was the commercial stating that the child had epilepsy before, diagnosed with a medical doctor, and in the same way that you were talking about Dr. Palmer had his practice, and then you come back and like, how do you navigate a TV commercial like that?
I advertised it exactly the way that what happened.
Yeah.
I said I advertised we could help seizures. I said okay, and did I get some pushback from people? Oh, he's a quack. Oh, he's a. But let me just say something.
Yeah.
The parents didn't think that.
For sure.
I cared about one thing. I cared about the child and what the parents thought.
Well, that's the spirit of a chiropractor.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So that's just the way I did it. Okay. This day and time, we're in a litigious world. People are looking for problems. We got haters everywhere. You got all that kind of stuff, okay? But you have to get beyond that. Mm-hmm. Like I told you before, I'm a gladiator in chiropractic.
Yeah.
I mentioned that to you. I want to be into the fight. I don't want to be in the arenas, okay, watching the fight on something that I believe in. I want to be into the fight. I want to be in the blood and the gore. I want to get down in the dirt, man.
You were telling me you were hanging out on your boat. This is the funniest part. He's talking about being a crusader, but you put a crusader in the middle of the boat and you're fishing. You're like, man, this is too damn boring.
I kept looking at this stuff on the internet. It's just, I have to call it like it is, like that linear or that Y strap adjustment. They're yanking people's heads, and they're just they're twisting necks here to the left, to the right. I never understood this. If we're sitting here and we're alignment doctors, let's just say that. I don't look at us as alignment doctors. I look at us as neurological doctors. But if we're trying to move a bone, if a chiropractor says, well, I'm taking an x-ray and it looks like it's a left atlas, all right? And so, well, if it's a left atlas, you're supposed to be moving it from left to right. Why in the world, 99% of the time when you see a chiropractor adjust, he's taking a patient, he's going to whip his neck that way, he's going to come right back in that, and he's going to go the other way. When he lays him on his back, he's going to come over here, he's going to hit one side, he's going to come over to the other side, back again. That does not make any sense to me. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the tradition of chiropractic and what B.J. Palmer found is that there's a way of looking at an x-ray and to determine that three-directional torque subluxation that's on the brainstem interfering with the communication from the brain to the body, that also has that element that it decreases the mental impulse. Now, how do we figure that out? Mm-hmm. So you're saying, okay, Kale, well, great. Well, how do we know about the mental impulse? Well, Dr. Palmer, we have instrumentation. We have an instrument. It checks thermology, all right? So we're checking a patient's temperature, just like our vision. Think about this, students, doctors. When you check your vision, your left should be just like your right. Your left eye should have about the same vision as your right. Totally. When I check your left ear, your
audiology,
it should be the same.
Right.
All right. When I check your temperature gradient, if I come in here at the fossa, that check temperature is 93 here, but on the other side it's 95. Yeah. And we have a delta of 2. That concerns me. I'm saying that's suspicious right there. We should have 92, 92. Mm-hmm. If I check a baby, check a 2-year-old, I check you right now with an instrument, we should have equal balance. The body is balanced side to side, all right? And so this is a way that we start seeing through instrumentation that the body is stressed physiologically if we have a temperature deficit of more than, say, 0.5, okay? So there's simple instrumentation. There's scans that we can do up the neck, all right? And with that instrument, which B.J. Palmer had in the clinic, we would look for what we call a pattern. That means when we would scan up the neck, that every time that we scan, we'd find that there was a curve, say at the top of the neck, every time, say to the left, to the left, to the left. So that tells us that we had what? Stuck physiology. That means the body was no longer adapting. Now, what's adaptation have to do with it? Well, adaptation is one of the 5 signs of life.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
So if you're not adapting, what are you doing? Dying.
Dying.
Okay?
Yeah.
But if we can keep you adapting, all right, and we can know that you're adapting through instrumentation, all right, what does that tell us? That you're now living. So if you came into my office and you were in a state of non-adaptation, and me as a doctor can show objectively to my patient, look here, there's a delta here of 2, all right? You're 2 degrees off here. When I do a scan up the neck, you're stuck. You're in pattern, okay? Your body is in a state of unable to adapt. No wonder you're throwing out symptoms and you've got sickness and you have illness. No wonder you're not adapting, and that's one of the 5 signs of life. So all we do is go in there with those 3 x-rays. We look at those x-rays. We determine at that axis area where that subluxation is. And then we try to neutralize that subluxation. As chiropractors, that's what we really should be, is subluxation neutralizers. You know what I'm saying? So we're neutralizing that subluxation. So when we do that, then we open up that gateway between the brain and the body, and then the body starts adapting again. If we can keep our patients adapting properly to the environment, if you constantly adapted to anything, all right, you could live forever, basically. So it's like I play the guitar, all right? When I play the guitar, I get calluses here.
Totally.
That's a sign of adaptation. Yeah. That means what happens is the pressure of those strings are putting pressure, friction on my fingers. But what happens, because we have an innate intelligence in our body, okay? The innate intelligence says, hey, that's starting to get to that's going to cut into the bone pretty soon. So I better do something about that. So we have isn't that beauty that we have an innate intelligence that says, hey, let's put a callus there.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's the way, that's the intelligence that upper cervical, especially upper cervical chiropractors work with, and it should be all chiropractors. They understand the body's innate intelligence, and that's who we're working with.
Right.
And as we do that, it's wonderful that we have her to work with, because she controls heart rate and rhythm, your respiration. I tell my patients, I said, you know, you can't control it. Raise your heart rate. I'm gonna put my stethoscope over here. Raise your heart rate for me. Raise your body temperature. I want to take a thermometer. Okay, I want to see you do that. You have no control over that. You see, but somebody's controlling that. Somebody's putting calluses here. If you cut yourself or run across a
tree
thorn or something like that, what happens? Okay.
You grow it back.
You grow it back. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty. We have a power. We have an intelligence that runs the body that, as chiropractic doctors, we should be in harmony with that intelligence.
Absolutely.
And when we get our patients to understand this, then we can see a profound influence and impact on our patients, our friends, our families, our community.
For sure.
So now.
So I've got a couple questions about upper cervical. All right. There's one of my goals is to be able to unite chiropractors, and there are aspects of chiropractic and different kinds of techniques, and I think that there's many techniques that are beneficial. When it comes to taking an x-ray for upper cervical, is there a difference in the way that you are measuring those x-rays, like versus how you were taught to measure x-rays in school, or like, I mean, there's different ways of measuring our bones. You could measure the posterior tangent line, you could measure the anterior tangent line. I mean, how is upper cervical?
Well, in the Kale technique, and I'll say this, there's a lot of different technology coming along now that is still young, in imaging. But with the Kale technique, we still stick by the traditional way of analyzing an x-ray, of going into and looking at the foramen magnum. All right, that's the closest thing from the cranium. You got the foramen magnum. That's where the brainstem comes out. We measure across the foramen magnum. Okay.
The distance.
We bisect that. Okay. Come down to the middle of that. That's the foramen magnum line. We put points on different areas of the atlas. Okay, where the posterior arch meets the lateral mass would be 1 point.
Yeah.
Okay. And then same thing on the other side. And then we measure that against the foramen magnum line. If it's further to the left, it'll be a left atlas. Further to the right, it'll be a right atlas.
Okay.
So it's very simple, okay? I've stuck to that way. I think it's a simplistic way of doing things. You've got to understand this. There's variables in x-rays. So some doctors will get so wrapped up, and especially some of the upper cervical doctors, they'll spend hours analyzing an x-ray and coming up with some type of listing. Then you get a colleague that would take the same x-rays and would come up with a different listing. So I'm just telling you there's variables, because when x-rays in the tube and the bucky, you're casting a shadow, okay? It's just a shadow. So if that bucky is not, that tube is not aligned properly with the bucky, okay? That angle and that shadow will throw off the alignment, okay? So in my seminars and in the crusade that we're running now, especially in the seminar area when we start talking about x-rays, my seminars and the crusade is going to be, my goal is to get people adjusted, okay? I understand instrumentation, I understand the x-ray, but I also understand how many variables are in the x-ray and how many variables are in instrumentation. Because when you're measuring temperature, you understand, you know, you've got the air on right now, okay? So I'm sitting here, that could be skewed. You see what I'm saying? But
so how do you take the variables away when you adjust? If the adjusting, I would, to me, it sounds like the adjustment is where you have a lot of congruency.
yes, okay. So what we're looking for mainly with the adjustment, all right, we want to, like, again, if we've got a delta when we're taking the temperatures, if you're doing it in a uniformed way where you're restricting airflow, you're allowing a patient to come in and acclimate to their environment for a minute. You know what I'm saying? You can't have a construction worker coming in, you're starting to run a scan up him and trying to get temperature from him, okay? He's sweating and everything else.
Right.
That makes no sense. So, but you can start to reduce those variables. But what I'm saying is, here's my mission, guys and students, to come just totally transparent with you. If you can't go into a foreign country, all right, you can't take instrumentation. What can you take over there? You can't take an x-ray machine. You can't take adjusting devices, okay, people that are using a stylus on a side, you know, big table and stuff. The universe and the creator gave us our hands to go into the world, wherever you are. You should, as chiropractors, be able to take what you got right here.
Yeah. Well, hey, some of them even are crippled, and they're still doing it.
Yes, I'm just saying.
Like,
if
really?
you can, what I'm saying is, if you can't be a chiropractor and take your hands without anything else, and go start adjusting people, all right, there's a problem. Now I understand you want to get technical, and we want to try to prove to medicine or whatever, and scientifically, but I'm just telling you, we've wasted so much time in 130 years. We're not much further than we were back in the research days. What real leverage have we made? We've actually went backwards.
Well, yeah, because we've been, I think there's more. There's 80,000 chiropractors, 90,000 chiropractors in the United States at least. And, you know, considering that still only 10% of the population is currently under chiropractic care, there's a massive opportunity, which is what you said at the beginning of this.
Yes.
And so, and what you're saying now is like, hey, like these people go on mission trips. And ironically, it's almost like the people on the mission trips are having these spontaneous remissions of all these incredible diseases. But the cool thing about going to these third world countries is they understand the power of the hand. They understand the power of community and with each other. And as we are in this country and other countries, that essence of we are united is gone away. United in health, united in love, united in space.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I mean, in the foreign countries, when we go for mission trips, they would line up. I'm talking about thousands of patients were there, and the medical profession was gladly giving us their patients. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And we've got restrictions here. You see, there is a problem. But I'm just saying I don't want you students, I understand you're going to have an arsenal of tools. And like you said, there's many different techniques. But when my dad decided when he graduated, he had the same thing as all students going to have. Who do I listen to? What seminar do I take? What class do I take? What technique am I going to practice? My dad was smart enough to say, listen, what did the very father of chiropractic do? You talked about my faith, and yes, I do have faith. And when I'm reading my Bible, okay, I want to know what's in red. I want to know what the man said. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to trust. I want to know what the man in red, the writing in red said.
Yeah.
My dad said, listen, what did the very father of chiropractic that researched, okay, for 16 years on the worst of worst cases that people were dropping dead in the reception room, that's how sick they were.
Yeah.
All right. What did he practice? Okay. So that just cleared away all the confusion. He said, I'm going to practice like the father of chiropractic practiced. And Dr. Lyle Sherman was his right-hand man. I'm going to do whatever I got to get into Dr. Sherman's office. If Dr. Sherman moved to Spartanburg, my dad would knock on his door and write him letters. And he would just avoid my dad. Finally, he irritated the heck out of Dr. Sherman and said, Mike, come on down and talk to me. Next thing you know, my dad's in practice with Dr. Sherman.
Amazing.
And so, I'm blessed that I'm so close to the very essence of chiropractic, of upper cervical chiropractic. And that, I was able to be with my dad for 15 years. And of course, we had the Kale Research Center, which I was the director of. My dad was the chief of staff. And we had the only chiropractic facility and hospital licensed by South Carolina DHEC in the United States at that time. So we were licensed for 7, like hospital beds, that we could see patients 24 hours a day.
Really?
And I was the director of that.
That's cool.
So what we would do is, after we had practiced during the day, of course, those patients would be back into our ward with our 7 beds.
And really quick, what was the distinction of legality to have that for people to stay for 24 hours? Was there anything different that you had to do, or that's just something you offered?
Oh no, that was just to get the license was like $250,000.
Really? And what is the license called?
It was the South Carolina DHEC. It was actually licensed to be able to care for patients on a 24-hour basis, just like a hospital. So you had to have a nursing staff, okay? Like we had to have like a nurse.
Yeah.
But yet instead of giving them medical care, all right, they already had the medical care. They already tried all those medical pathways. Those pathways weren't working. So they were coming from as far as Como, Italy to come to our practice. And at 7 o'clock at night, after I had practiced, I would come in there. I'd take those patients that were in our ward. I would scan them, check them, evaluate them. I'd call my dad and say, okay, this is what we got on these testing. He'd say, okay, go ahead and adjust this patient or don't adjust. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And then at 10 o'clock at night, I'd be back over there at the office, checking them again. This went on and on and on for weeks at a time.
Wow.
We would keep these patients that were coming across the United States and across the world. It was a wonderful education for me. So, that's when I tell my students and for my seminars and crusade, I'm capable of training you properly. I can promise you that. I have the ability and I have the qualifications.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? To train you that you'll be adequate. You'll be more than, qualified once I sign you off on the certificate. So anyway, that was a beautiful tradition that I have, and I'm proud of that. Now, I'd like to move on to something a little bit more spectacular as far as just talking about the upper cervical adjustment, unless you have another question about that.
No. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
All right. So basically, the crusade that I'm talking about, when I say join this Kale crusade, this is for patients that have been helped by chiropractic doctors. This is about every chiropractor. This is about students. This is about upper cervical doctors. But here's the things that I've learned in my years of being in the healthcare business and in upper cervical chiropractic. My dad died at 61, all right? And that wasn't fun for me, but he died with, I was his adjuster, and the adjustment was everything. But my dad didn't have a proper diet, and he for sure didn't exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of your traditional chiropractors and chiropractic in general say, well, we're not nutritionists, and we're not into teaching people about exercise. Well, let me just tell you something. I can remember back in my day, going over, my dad would go over for visit one of his chiropractic buddies, and going to take him to lunch. But before then, the doctor was in there with a patient with a cigarette in his mouth. I'll never forget this one doctor. He had a patient lined up there. This is, back in the day, and smoking, and ashes was falling on the patient, while he's adjusting them. My point of it is, and even now, you see chiropractors not taking care of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
The chiropractors are dropping dead between 50 and 60 like flies. Okay?
Why do you think that is?
That's because they're just it's just about, they'll be out there taking, how do I say this without being, but they're just unhealthy. And all they want to talk about is innate intelligence and that adjustment. Man, when you get that adjustment, that's all you need. I have come up with a concept, and I've been teaching my patients this for years, and it's called spark, fuel, air, okay? I teach my patients that whenever they catch that concept of spark, fuel, and air, now they got it. That's what I call the health trinity. It's on a tripod. Yes, we have to have that electrical system working properly. And who's the best to do that? Us, the chiropractic doctor, okay?
Yeah.
Hopefully that you're thinking more as we talk. This is not so much about musculoskeletal, but we're talking about nerve system and the electrical system. So your spark comes from your electrical system. We can monitor that. How? Through instrumentation, okay? By the x-ray, making sure that that spark is getting through that gap here.
Mm-hmm.
What I was talking about, the spark plug gap is set properly. So now we know the electrical system's working good. But let me tell you something. We have this day and time an opportunity to take the whole world and say, listen, the chiropractic doctor is the health doctor. That's the one you go to, not only to keep the electrical system in your spine normal, but they can teach you about how to eat superfoods, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They know all about superfoods. They know about the ORAC score, oxygen radical absorption capacity. Mm-hmm. There's a score that measures the potency of a vegetable or a fruit to neutralize free radicals in our body, and it gives them a score. So let's just say you take a blueberry and it's got a score of 5,000, whereas a pear, might be a fruit, has a score of 100. So which one are you going to tell your patient which should be eating? Okay, should be eating the blueberries. Okay, kale has a vegetable score, ORAC score. Let's say it's 10,000. All right, but you're eating some other type of vegetable, maybe has a score of 500.
Yeah.
My point of it is this: the spark, fuel, air. Our cells rely on the three of those. Just like I tell my patients, is when you pulled up into my driveway, pulled up with your car, that engine required the electrical system was working properly. You had the proper gas in it, which is the fuel, and you had a good air system. That means that the carburation system, the intake system, the air system, all of that worked together. That caused combustion in the engine that created power. Okay?
Right.
Now, with my body, all right, I got 1,000 horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
My patients or whoever that has a lack of spark, a lack of fuel, say I'm using racing fuel because I eat good. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you have a patient that's sitting there not eating good. And I'm saying, well, you got 87 octane.
Yeah.
I've got rocket fuel.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then I get them exercise, and I said, what is exercise? Well, I exercise, I'll walk. I said, let me ask you something. Did you break a sweat? Did you wipe your hands and break a sweat? If you didn't, you didn't exercise. I said, when you break a sweat, your heart rate's got up to a point where you've now started to secrete enkephalins and endorphins, and these are morphine mimicking hormones that are very good for our bodies.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? Good for our lymphatic systems, good for our circulation, good for our heart, et cetera, et cetera. You have to break a sweat first. What's my point? In chiropractic, I believe now, if we can embrace spark, fuel, and air to our patients and say we are the authority on this, okay? Mm-hmm. We understand that. We understand the nutritional value. We understand how to get you exercising. We're going to get you on this health tripod, Your health sits on a tripod. And one of those legs is not there, what happens? Your health tumbles over.
Right.
And I get my patients understanding that. So you understand, Dalton, why you have to come into my office and let me check. I want to be talking to you about what you've been eating.
Yeah.
What kind of exercise you've been doing. All right. I'm going to check your spine and make sure the electrical system's working, but I need you to tell me what you also be doing with spark, fuel, and air.
For sure.
Okay. And so now your patients realize, my goodness, this doctor knows much more than I thought about. I thought he was just going to come in here and pop my neck, or he was going to crack my bones. Okay.
Yeah.
No, now it becomes much more sophisticated. All right. And you have so much more respect from the community and, from your patients. They realize they can ask you questions and you can give them an intelligent answer to it, and things that make sense to them, like spark, fuel, and air. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's made a difference, big difference in my practice, in my educational part, in building $1 million practice, and having patients. They just know they need to keep their electrical system checked. They need to do their spark, fuel, and air. So, the crusade that I'm trying to build and will build, you see my logo, Adjusting the World Back to Health, is to bring in like-minded students, doctors, and say, I see what Dr. Kale's talking about. And, here's our problem. I've developed a nonprofit corporation called Chiropractic Media Corporation, and I'm going to expose that in about a month. But I'm sick and tired of seeing all the medical and pharmaceutical drug companies advertising to my children. They're watching TV, and that's all they're seeing is about popping pills for this, popping pills for that. Yeah. That's all you see on TV. I want to know what the ICA, the ACA, what has chiropractic done? Where is all of our money going to advertise and put what chiropractic can do on our television, on our internet, on our social media? Where's all of our money going that's doing that? For sure. Okay. The public sees nothing about chiropractic on their television. All they're seeing is all the pharmaceutical ads. And I think it's time for us as chiropractors, like you said, you got 80,000 chiropractic doctors, right? What if they were given $100 a month to Chiropractic Media Corporation, okay? Yeah. Nonprofit, just giving $100. Yeah. They should be given 1,000. Yeah. Do you understand the impact if you could just get 20,000 of those to give $100 a month? For sure. To a corporation, a media corporation that now says, listen, we stand by chiropractic and we're going to start advertising. Our children are going to start seeing what the adjustment will do. Children and parents that like that epileptic are going to be sitting there talking on a commercial saying, well, this is what happened. I went over to see Dr. Dalton and had this problem. Look at what happened through this adjustment, okay? Yeah. We've got to listen, marketing is everything. You're doing a podcast for a reason, okay? Yeah. You're trying to get the word out. He's trying to get the word out to the world. Yeah. I'm trying to help you do that.
Thank you.
So what I'm saying
is— You are helping me do that.
Well, thank you. But we've got to come together as a mindset and get back to a traditional way of understanding the subluxation and the adjustment. Otherwise, all we're going to do is just blend in with physical therapy. Next thing you know, we're going to be out. Okay. My dad said one day medicine will take over chiropractic. They'll realize how powerful chiropractic is, and they will own us. Okay, if we don't stand up for who we are. And what's happened is it has come.
It's not going to happen, though. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. We're not going to let that happen.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, that's right. It's not going to happen. Not with us here.
Yeah.
So that is so true. But it has gotten so diluted that we have to get back to some tradition. We have to get back to some research. And why anybody have read the 40 volumes of B.J. Palmer and starts to read these books, and they'll realize how intelligent that man was. Yeah. Okay. He had a universal understanding. He had a innate would talk to him. He would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and start writing books. Yeah. And the intelligence that man had. I mean, he had 2 radio stations. Back in the 30s, first radio stations in the United States. In fact, Ronald Reagan came to work for him, and he said in one of his books, this man that I've hired for my radio station, I think you'll go a long way in life. Of course. And he
movie star and the president. There you go.
But all of the things that he's done, and in those years of the research, all right, And then some people say, well, he changed his ways after the research and changed his mind on some of the adjustments and what. But here's the whole thing. We look at the research years, okay? We look at what did, in that 16 years, how was those patients adjusted? What were the results that came out of that? We have the booklets that prove.
What is this booklet?
These
You've
are
shown it a couple of times.
These
what
are some of the booklets, like this one here, hematological changes. Okay, didn't say anything about low back. This is out of the research B.J. Palmer Chiropractic Clinic. This is 1,054 cases that they went over, showing exactly what happened with the blood results after being adjusted upper cervically. You see, and all the results are here in these books. So we've got the research booklets, but people just seem to like I'm not looking back into the 30s or the 40s or the 50s. Why not? There's no other research now. You show me one technique that has any valid research, and especially for 16 years, and it was supervised by the very father of chiropractic. Come on, it's not going to happen, all right? And if there was something that was more valid than this procedure, why is chiropractic getting so diluted now? Why are we getting sucked up with physical therapy? It's because we went away from the very tradition and values of chiropractic. Just remember, like I told you, before 1934, B.J. Palmer had already looked into all these other methods of adjusting, and he realized cracking up and down the spine wasn't getting anything done. And that's why he pulled it back to the atlas and axis and said, okay, let's do this. And when we get results, we don't have to say, well, I wonder if it was this adjustment. There's 24 vertebrae. Was it this one, or this one? They started getting results with proven validity because they were diagnosed over here medically, corrected chiropractically, back over. We know that the research is valid, and it was only done to 2 vertebrae. So right. I'm just saying, students, you'd be crazy not to incorporate this into your practice. If you say, well, I'm not just going to have an upper cervical practice. I understand that, okay? But why in the world would you not adjust? And I'm sitting here for 40 years telling you that I am proven walking testament to the fact of the ability to keep you healthy. Yeah. Be 65 years old pretty soon. And I feel pretty good,
Well, for sure, you look good. Well, I mean, you got the spirit in you, that's for sure.
Well, thank you very much. But it's kept my family well. It's kept my grandchildren well. I'll say this. This is beautiful. Mm-hmm. When my grandsons or grandchildren, they have a problem, they got a little sniffle, they're not sleeping good, something's going on with them, they don't come up to me and say, or to their parents and say, hey, I need an aspirin, or I got a headache and I need something out of the medicine cabinet. They don't do that in our house, okay? They come up and say, Papa, I need to be checked, all right? You need to be checked? Okay, go get the instrument. They'll bring over the instrument. We'll check them out. Okay, you got about a delta of maybe a 0.5. Mm-hmm. I think you'll be okay. We're going to let you go right now. Let's see how your body continues to work and adapts with this, okay? If it continues to go on, the child might come back to me, or my parent might call me, Dad, looks like Rhett or Reeves needs to get checked and adjusted. Mm-hmm. They come back at what my saying is, or what I'm trying to tell your chiropractic doctors and students. Isn't that beautiful that you could have a family where your child will come up and say, hey, I got a headache, I need a pill, I need to take an aspirin, I need something. They come up and say, I need to be checked, Papa. Yeah. When you get to that level, I'm just telling you, when you can get to that level, you're so proud. My grandson comes up, he just graduated, fixing to go into kindergarten. I asked him, what did he want to be, when he grows up? And the teacher was telling me, the first thing he said, well, I want to be a fireman, I believe. And then he said, whoa, he said, stop. He said, no, I want to be a chiropractor. And so the little sign that he's got when they took a picture of him, with his little hat on and graduation uniform and everything, said, I want to be a chiropractor. All right, that makes me proud, okay, that that he wants to do that. Mm-hmm. And I think that young students like yourself, mm-hmm. you're going to have your family, you're going to have a wife, family members that one day you're going to have a challenge with them. You're going to have a health challenge. And you're going to remember us sitting down talking about this. Mm-hmm. You're going to remember all these different dis-eases that I told you about.
Absolutely.
That were more than what your just general chiropractic manipulation would ever think about taking care of.
Yeah.
And there you're going to say, bring that child to me. Let me check them neurologically. Okay.
Right.
Let me see if they're adapting like we talked about, because if they're not, no wonder they're sick. Okay.
Right.
No wonder they're throwing all these symptoms because they're not adapting. And you're going to be able to put your hands on them. And let me tell you something. Touch is what? That's one of the signs. That's one of the 5 signs. One of your senses.
Yeah.
All right. That touch is important.
Yeah.
You can't take away from that touch. If you shake my hand right now, how you doing, Dalton? I'm Dr. Randy Kale.
Yeah.
You feel that?
Yeah.
Now let me put something between you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
How you doing, Dalton?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You see that, students? Let me just tell you something. I want to get off on this, but chiropractic is with hands. Keep your hands on your patients, all right? That's where the touch means more than you think, okay? The disciples went about laying on hands, healing the sick, all right?
Yeah.
Spiritually, and on the physical side, the universe gave us our hands to be able to put on our patients, and through the principle of above, down, inside out, restore health back to our patients.
Absolutely.
And we cannot forget about that.
For sure.
As students, if you get away from, I'm just going to go to this kind of, let me just tell you something. I know I'm going to get a lot of, we're going to get some pushback on here.
Yeah.
But you know what? I love all of you. If you're a chiropractic doctor, I love you, okay?
Yeah.
I want you to join this crusade and say, let's get together with spark, fuel, and air. Let's adjust the world back to health and let them know that chiropractors, they won't be calling us quacks anymore. And they won't, when my grandson becomes able to get into chiropractic school, he'll be proud to be called a chiropractor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And,
Well, I'm sure he would be now.
Well, he would
he's
be.
got because he's got you, and you said you've got multiple people in your family. He's got a lineage, so he'd be the 4th generation of chiropractors.
Yes.
So I mean, I know what you mean by that.
Yes.
Because of the things that we're doing in this day are making such an impact that even in the eyes of the public, if he didn't have 4 generations above him, that he'd still be proud to be a chiropractor.
Right.
And what's happening now, and what I see in schools, is that some of these chiropractors don't know what they're doing after they graduate. Sometimes they don't know what they're doing before, or they may not have. Sometimes people are shy. Maybe they don't go to clubs or whatever it is. They're not networking. And the challenge is, well, I will say at Life University, I hear compared to a lot of the other universities, we have the most amount of clubs. There's nearly everybody I know is involved in something.
Right.
So, but there is conflicts, and I do want to bring a couple things up. Absolutely, what you're talking about here. I want to read what and learn from you about this upper cervical. There are aspects of chiropractic research I know that this chiropractic biophysics team has done to show neurological function. And so I'm curious, I think that we're in a place where there's tends to be a lot of division within our own industry. And I think that, there's some undeniable things that are happening, at least that the research that I know with CBP, having a 20-degree lordosis in your cervical neck is basically the indication of pain. They do neurological tests with balance and figure, hey, if you're having a less than 20-degree lordosis in your cervical curve, that they're showing these balance tests that they're not having the coordination. And so, it's my goal to be able to bring everyone together rather than say one is better than the other. And I agree with you that there's a massive lack of research, and what you brought, I'd love to know about. I think this is something that innately I know. Hey, if you've got an ailment, we have the ability to heal each other. It's just that's just the way that it is. And I think that the challenge in our industry is how do we fall into this model? I was having a conversation with a student, Brooklyn, that he goes, well, the medical model cares about double-blind studies. How do you do that as a chiropractor? Where, for people who don't know what a double-blind study means, the patient doesn't know what kind of treatment they're getting, and the doctor also doesn't know what kind of treatment they're getting. I mean, as chiropractic, the cool thing about chiropractic is that you know what you're doing. You know, if you can take a look at the double-blind study and you go, well, you could really take advantage of people because nobody knows what the hell is going on. At least in chiropractic, somebody's knowing what's going on. But you know, as a patient, somebody's touching you. If you're getting an adjustment, you can't fake that. And if you're a chiropractor, you can't really fake an adjustment. So that's incredible. So there are these aspects of like, well, we have all these regulations with that really have been created through the medical system and their infiltration into the powers that be, even in chiropractic at different points in time in history. You know, there's been, thankfully, there's been a unifying force in the ICA and the ACA right now that they're trying to come together for once. So I think that I just want to say that there is a place for all of us to be able to grow together, because I think that there are many techniques that you may not have to do some neural emotional work on everybody, but there is somebody who's really going to resonate with that sort of connection. Mm-hmm. And there are people who, you know, if you have CBP doctor, you know, you got a spondy, there are people who are creating ways to create pressure off the cord. You know, I don't know a lot about the upper cervical technique and how you would assess those x-rays or make the adjustment and how it could be different. So I'm ignorant to this, and obviously you're a veteran. So I think that, as you're saying, there's energy that goes up and down the spinal cord and starting at the brainstem, that I agree. Hey, that would be the first place that we could look, and it would have an immense amount of an effect on our nervous system.
Exactly. Well, I'll say this. You're talking about different techniques all coming together, and I totally 100% agree with that. All I'm saying is, as students, there's enough evidence, a preponderance of evidence, with our father of chiropractic in the research years, and that's 16 years, and just from what the man created, you wouldn't be a chiropractor right now if it wasn't for B.J. Palmer, okay? So there wouldn't be one school of chiropractic in the United States or over the world if it wasn't for B.J. Palmer. You
Absolutely.
See what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I'm saying don't be ignorant enough. I'm not saying don't investigate these other areas, but I'm saying there is enough evidence in that research center in the time
in 1930s.
In the 30s,
yeah.
Okay, up until
That's 152.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying between 1934 and into the 50s. Okay, there's enough research there to be able to. It makes sense to me that I'm for certain going to incorporate this into my practice.
Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying?
No, I
Absolutely.
agree.
I'm going to be adjusting my patients' knee chest. I'm going to be evaluating them like Dr. Palmer did, like Lyle Sherman did, Mike Kale did, like many other doctors of chiropractic and knee chest have done that duplicate Dr. Palmer's work.
Absolutely.
I think at least students, it's like this seminar coming up on June 13th and 14th. It's free to you students the first 10 hours.
There you go.
You got to come for free. I'm going to pour out everything I've got to you.
Absolutely.
And every student for free.
Well, for even just to be around Dr. Kale's energy. I mean, just to be in your energy, you're fired up.
Well,
you probably got a lot of testosterone coursing through your veins.
Well, I've said this many times, okay, and I'll say this. You're right about my faith. I'll say this real quickly. We'll move on to something else. But the reason that I do have this energy, this confidence, this passion, is because I'm a witness for what I have seen in upper cervical knee chest chiropractic. I'm a witness to it. I've seen too much. I can't back out. Okay. And like I say this, I've said about like the disciples. Okay. Yeah. The disciples. If you look the way that they went to death, okay, for their master, all they would have to do is say, no, he is not the Messiah. He is not the Lord. Okay, and denied it. But they couldn't deny it because of what they had seen. Right. They had seen him raising the dead, healing the sick, curing the blind. Okay, restoring many things back. So they knew, they had already witnessed it, and they would give their life for that, okay? Because they give their life, hey, that's just, all that is a quick trip, a shortcut to heaven. So they weren't worried about that. My point of it in my life, the age I'm at,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have seen too much. This passion is not I have nothing to sell you. Like I said, I'm coming back into this. Like I said, I should be on the sea radio.
Yeah.
Striper fishing, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm coming back into this because I've witnessed too much, and I'm starting to see a delusion in the chiropractic profession. It's diluted. The profession, the philosophy, the adjustment is becoming so diluted that I'm afraid that it could be lost.
Okay, so
that's why
let's
I'm
talk
back with
about
you.
that. Let's talk about what is it that you're seeing?
Well, it's mainly in the lack of the adjustment. We're getting away from the adjustment.
You mean using the tools?
The tools and so much therapy. Okay, like I said, I had an injured practice where I had E-stim and I used therapies in my office.
Right.
Okay, I had no problem with that. Some of my upper cervical doctors didn't like that. Okay, I didn't care about that because I had my sick practice and I had my patients, like I said, with children with epilepsy and pediatric practice, etc. So what am I seeing? You can't tell me the safeness of a person laying on their back, wrapping a wrap around their neck and yanking their neck. I mean, you think about it in the olden days when they hung people, it's about the same thing. They'd wrap noose around their neck, okay?
Yeah.
Drop them. What that do? Boom. What that does is it puts the odontoid into the brainstem, cuts off the respiratory centers of the brainstem. That's how a person, when they were hung, would kill them, not breaking their neck. But I'm just saying, if you get into the point, and chiropractic is getting to the point, we're laying people on their backs, we're wrapping a towel around them, and we're just yanking their neck. I'm surprised that there's not been more litigation on this, but there will be. I'm just saying, we got to get back to some specific analysis of the spine and some specific adjusting of the spine, like our very father of chiropractic and some of our main leaders that have promoted and brought chiropractic to where it is now. If we allow this to continue, I'm just saying that I wonder, will we even be hand adjusting in 10 years anymore? Will we be putting our hands on something? We're getting our mentality so much towards the educated part of trying to figure out educatingly what's going on and trying to prove it scientifically, and we're forgetting about the innate part of it. Right. See what I'm saying? We're forgetting about what Mother Nature has brought to us. And I'm just saying, I know we want to be objective. I get that. We want testing and we want to be able to show proof. But let me say something. We're never going to get to the point that's just going to be A plus B. It don't happen like that. How can you sin your whole life and all you have to do is ask for forgiveness and you're forgiven? You're not going to figure that out. You can try it. You're never going to figure it out. You're never going to be able to figure out exactly what happens in the adjustment. And people that want to sit here and scientifically figure that out, go be scientists, okay? Chiropractors are here to put their hands on people and correct their problems through the adjustment, through above, down, inside, out. I'm a user of the philosophy of the adjustment. Like this right here, I tell people, I don't have time to figure out how electricity gets to that wall right there or over to this lamp, okay? I know there's probably a dam somewhere and there's generators and turbines that turn. Right. You got electrical grids and you could go through. I don't have time to figure that out.
You just want to turn the light on.
I just want to put my switch in there, my plug in there, turn my light on. In chiropractic, there's going to be people, all right, I'm trying to say. They need to be a scientist. They want to prove now what happens biomechanically and neurophysiologically here, the brain and the body and all the neurons and the cranial nerves and et cetera, et cetera. I don't have time for that. I want to learn it, okay, as a doctor, okay? I need the basics of it. Give it to me. But there's a world out there that needs to be adjusted. See what I'm saying? There's a whole world out there.
Right.
So I have to be a user. I have to be a user of the information that the universe has given me through my hands to get my hands on as many people as I can.
Well, because this is the point. What you're saying is that you see a world of people walking around, and this is the thing. You know, you have patients come in and they tell you about their mother, they tell you about their grandmother, they tell you about the cognitive dysfunction of this, that, and the other, and you know that if there is a way to communicate to every patient, for me, this is my purpose too, is teaching communication. How do we as doctors communicate a lifestyle of chiropractic rather than going, well, this is what you do when you have pain? It's not to say that it doesn't help.
Right.
But to say, how do you have had, your family has chosen chiropractic.
Right.
So what is the conversation in your family versus the conversation who somebody is a chiropractor for 5 years and then that family never has a chiropractor in their family again?
Right.
There's a different conversation happening.
Oh, absolutely.
And so this is the same thing for chiropractors who have, like, I was talking about PVA with some of my colleagues in school, like, hey, I want to know what the doctors who have over 100 PVA. That means that they're not really accepting new patients. They're treating 400 or 500 people consistently. They unless they add in more doctors, they're not able to handle more people as themselves.
That's right.
So it's like, what is the conversation in the practice that those doctors are having versus the conversation in the practice where other chiropractors are bragging about 30 new patients a month? To me, I'm like, well, if you have 30 new patients a month, even if you're saying you got 300 patients that you see a week, if you had 30 new patients that month, the next week you should have 330 new patients or 330 patients. But it's like, well, I've been at 300 for the last 3 years, and if you, on average, let's say you get 10 new patients a week, that's how many people have gone and left.
Right.
To me, that's the problem. That's a problem that I'm working to solve in this industry, is that I don't feel that chiropractors understand how to tell patients what they know to be the truth. And I also feel like a lot of chiropractors wouldn't even be able to articulate in the same way that you have, in this rounded way. You understand that there's family. You understand all things that chiropractic could do. Mm-hmm. In your mind, you're not restricted in your ability of what you can help somebody else to do. Mm-hmm. You've connected emotionally. Like, hey, if you have depression, if you got anxiety, if you feel sadness or whatever it is, whatever you're feeling emotionally, get adjusted, and it's going to have an impact on the way that you feel. If you have any sort of metabolic thing, if you've got whatever it is, that you are confident that chiropractic is going to have a significant impact on whatever it is that you're feeling. Absolutely. And it would be against your core values, and because you're a man of faith, this is why you came back, because you can't live with the fact that that message is not being conveyed well. Right. And you're coming back to teach us how to go, hey, look, how come everybody in my family sees chiropractic like I do, and your patients, I'm sure, see that as well. Right. Or they did when you were practicing. Right. And so how do we bridge that gap? This thing that I'm most passionate about, is how do I teach chiropractors to see chiropractic? We can go to school and we can learn all these things. And BJ Palmer was doing research. He's trying to prove this, and I'd be curious to know what you think the reason that he was choosing to do this research was for.
Well, the main thing is when he went through, like I said, all the different ways of adjusting, the different techniques way before. Right. And then, he was the first one, Dr. Palmer, to introduce, X-ray into chiropractic.
Absolutely. Well, hey, it was in 1980 or 1895.
Well, that was when they
created. Yeah.
But I'm saying coming into the 20s, 1920, I believe, is when he brought it into chiropractic. But, Dr. Palmer was realizing, that dis-ease, he felt like that the lack of neurological information to the body was the problem with people having dis-ease in the body. So now he had to figure out, okay, now where I've already went through the whole spine, and then he found the medulla, the brainstem, and now he realized that's the very inception when the two eggs come together. The first thing that started is the brainstem. Mm-hmm. So that is the most complicated and complex area of the spinal cord, is the brainstem. Mm-hmm. All right. Mm-hmm. Then it only makes common sense if the atlas and axis are the ones that are surrounding that brainstem, which is so important, right? That interested him. Okay. That said, hey, I need to look at that area. Mm-hmm. All right. Then they came up with, the instrumentation, and started to test and temperatures and things, the effects of it. and people were sending in different types of cases. And they were getting well under chiropractic. But then again, the medicine and medical people and the general population was saying, well, they would have gotten well anyway.
Yeah.
So that's when Palmer decided, hey, I've got to set this thing up right. And that's why he came up with a research center with a medical side and a chiropractic side.
Yeah.
And, you know the story of Dr. Mayo, when Dr. Mayo brought his wife into the B.J. Palmer Research Center, got her over her problems. And chiropractors could go to the Mayo Clinic, I think it was up into the 80s, and for no charge.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the types of cases, again, what I'm saying is there's enough evidence and preponderance of evidence in the things that I've seen in his practice and the ways that he talks and the books that he has written. I just challenge the students, go get some green books, start reading, okay?
Yeah.
And then you'll see what I'm talking about, how sophisticated. You talk about people they're coming up with this new technique or whatever. Look at it, just read through those books and imagine what that man had on his mind. And then, so I'm looking at say, hey, how he practiced, that's good enough for me at this point. And for other researchers, chiropractic doctors that want to research, again, if you've got the time to do that and you want to research it, maybe you can come up with something new and it's great, okay, and there's research to back it up. I'm certainly willing to look at that. And yes, like you're saying, let's come together as a community. But right now I'm saying the most evidence that I see are in those research years. And I believe what Dr. Palmer said. I believe what Dr. Lyle Sherman said.
Yeah.
I believe how my dad practiced. And I mean, my dad came from nothing and what he created. And he had laughed. He said, I built this castle and I got 2 Rolls Royces and I only adjusted 2 bones. Imagine if I was full spine. But anyway, I'm just saying, there's enough evidence right now as students to at least consider this, all right? Don't let this go by in your chiropractic education and say, I don't even know what that book is about. What is that volume 18? Get this book and start reading it, okay? Get to seminars. You've got an opportunity. There's other doctors, not just me, out there that have been doing this, upper cervical chiropractic knee chest doctors that are teaching. That I promote, and that's I want you to hunt them out and look them up. They're good also, but incorporate this, at least investigate it, and for sure, if a man of my qualifications are going to sit here and give you this at no charge for free, students, I mean, it's in Alpharetta. You're 20 minutes from life.
Yeah.
I would expect that it would be I'd have to, say, hey, we'll have to cut the line off.
Yeah.
For people coming that want to hear the real traditional values of chiropractic and what really chiropractic and the essence of it really is about. So, I challenge you to do that. I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the more physiological parts of the adjustment and what I've found and some of the things that are theories, but I want you students to think about. We could talk a little bit about that for a few minutes if you wanted to.
All right. Hey, we're an open book.
Okay, so because one day I know this will come, the scientific evidence will become real and you'll remember this conversation.
Absolutely.
So what I found in the years that I was working with my dad, we'd have these patients coming from all over the United States and from foreign countries, and they would come spend time with us, and we would x-ray them, and we'd find out that, we'd keep them for 2 or 3 weeks, and they'd get better and well, and their symptoms were gone, etc., and we had cleared them from their nerve interference. But we would take a post x-ray, and the x-ray hadn't changed any. And I would tell my dad, I said, what's going on here? I said, they're over, their problem's over. They're great. They're good to go.
Yeah.
Why is the x-rays not changing? So
Right.
Here's my point. I'm going to say this real quickly. We don't have to elaborate on it, but this is just food for thought here. There's more going on with the adjustment than what we realize. Okay. So years ago, even back in the 90s, I realized that. And I started looking at the cerebrospinal fluid and what I call a closed system in that cerebrospinal fluid.
Right.
And within that cerebrospinal fluid, you have neuropeptides. And these neuropeptides are messenger proteins, okay, that what happens is with motion, these proteins will connect to the cell receptor. It's like a lock and key. So when we make this adjustment, this upper cervical, especially this knee chest adjustment, I believe what's happening, in addition to moving the vertebra, we are causing a flow, a wave of motion into the cerebral spinal fluid. It'd be like dropping a marble or dropping a golf ball into a body of water, and you watch how the wave of water, and what that does within the cerebral spinal fluid, these neuropeptides, which again are messenger cells, start connecting into other cells, a lock and key method, and they're communicating and allowing better communication through that neurological pathway that's causing more to happen with the adjustment than we realize. So this adjustment, I believe, is best suited for that. Because if you think about a body of water, if you dropped a BB in there, how much wave response would you have from that? Not much.
Not much.
You know what I'm saying? So I think about, I don't know, a stylus or whatever, you're sitting there tapping. That's not, but if you drop a golf ball or drop a baseball in that body of water, if what I'm theorizing is correct, all right, you're going to have more of an impact on that wave of motion, causing more distribution of these neuropeptides within that cerebral spinal fluid, causing a connection, a lock and key that those neuropeptides are now connecting to that receptor site on that cell, okay? Mm-hmm. And there's where we're starting to see things that we've been looking only at the spine, but I think there's much more happening within that adjustment than just moving a bone from left to right.
Right. Okay, so let me ask you this. So how does that translate into the adjustment? So based on that theory, a pinpointed stylus may have less of an effect in regards to the neurotransmitters than, let's say, this is a drop table. Mm-hmm. If there's a drop table, then there's more motion in the entire body than there would be happening in a stylus.
That's why I think drop headpiece and side posture, I'm totally in agreement with that. I have a drop piece table. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I don't have any problems with that.
Yeah.
Side posture drop, and you guys out there listening to this, I love you. I don't have any problems with that. I just think the knee chest, based on Palmer's work and what I've seen is it's the holy, to me, it's just the holy grail. If you're doing knee chest, okay, to me, okay, you're the holy grail.
Yeah, yeah.
All chiropractors are my friends, and I love you all. If you're doing knee chest, and you drop the hip piece, side posture, I love you a little bit more than others, but the holy grail is the knee chest.
Well, at least
because think about that. It's broader, okay? It's like dropping the baseball in the water instead of a BB. When you broad contact onto that atlas, okay, and now you're in an area where the cerebral spinal fluid, there's a connecting system there in the reservoir between the cranium there. And so when you make that adjustment, I think something's happening there with those neuropeptides that we've got to figure out and that we will figure out soon.
For sure. That's cool.
Just a little cool additive there.
Yeah. So now I have a question for you. When it comes to an upper cervical adjustment, you're making the adjustment with what's this bone? Pisiform, right? Okay. Now, when it comes to other cervical adjustments, what would you say? What are the benefits of this adjustment you're talking about?
Okay, mainly is because you're untorquing a three-directional torque subluxation. Again, go back to this book. B.J. Palmer talked about that the atlas and the axis become a three-directional torque subluxation. So it has to be, to untorque that, you have to do it in a three-directional way.
Is it possible to show us with these two bones here?
Well, I'm just saying, think of it like this right here, and I've got on my Facebook, you can look at my Facebook, and I challenge you guys to befriend me on Facebook. I've got a lot of videos on a lot of this stuff. But like taking a cork out of a wine bottle, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Instead of just pulling it, okay, you pull and twist, okay? So it's the torquing part of it. With this adjustment, all right, BJ Palmer talked about the three-directional torqued subluxation has to be untorqued three-directionally. So there's an adjustment, okay, say from left to right, okay? Then you're using torque and you're recoiling. So you're applying that pressure, that rattles the vertebra, okay? So the vertebra is sitting here, say it's up here left. You're over here, okay? Boom. You're adjusting down, and then say it's angled up, anterior, superior, okay? So you're putting torque on, say, the posterior arch here, boom. So it's going left to right. You're rattling the vertebra, okay, with the adjustment. It vibrates, and then what? Innate then puts that vertebra exactly back where it should be. We don't move the vertebra, okay? We adjust the vertebra. We make a concussion of forces, all right? With the concussion of forces, that's all innate needs, that little vibration to set that vertebra, because like she does checking your respiration and checking every other metal, she can also do that. You see? She just needs a little help sometimes.
Right. Well, that vibration is what you're talking about with the cerebrospinal.
That's exactly what we're talking about. Neuropeptides. But like I said, in the seminars, we go over all of the X-ray evaluations, exactly, what's normal, abnormal, how these vertebrae, how do you call a listing? When I say a listing, that it could be 276 different ways that it's misaligned, but your X-ray evaluation will tell you exactly down to a listing, okay, a three-directional listing that you can use with that adjustment to reset that vertebra back to where it should be.
Right.
So
now, is there a way for you? Now, you mentioned that hey, we got our hands. We should be able to go anywhere and do jungle adjusting. What is is there like a level of assessment that you would do if we're in the middle of somewhere, like on a hike?
Yeah, we can do a postural exam. So I'll just have you, close your eyes like a patient out there. Okay?
Yeah.
They do close their eyes. So we're checking the righting reflex. When I say the righting reflex, you're bringing your head back to right. All right. So if you closed your eyes, turn your head to the left, turn your head to the right, shake your head back and forth. Okay. With your eyes closed, come back to center. I'd ask my patient or who I'm talking to, come back to center. Then I would evaluate the way that their head is sitting onto their spine.
Sure.
Okay. So if it's sitting here, the right ear is jacked way up. Okay. That would tell me, okay, the atlas is side slipped to the right. So I've got an indicator that we've got a right atlas. You see what I'm saying? Right. So those are postural analysis that we use. And we do that with the eyes closed because with your eyes open, your body's always going to right your head to the horizon. It's always going to make your head level. But with your eyes closed, it throws off that righting reflex, so that when you jiggle your head around and you come back and perceive what's there, okay, what you perceive to be normal, all right, then we can actually see how the head's sitting onto the spine. Right. Without the eyes being open, because again, with the eyes open, the body's going to automatically, level its head. Right. And now this is showing you what happens like with low back pain. People go to the chiropractor. They say, well, I've been to the chiropractor. He adjusted my back 100 times, but it keeps coming back. And I can't get this well, even with my chiropractor adjusting my low back. Yeah. They come to an upper cervical doctor. They find out. We check them. All right. They side slip to the left or to the right. All right. So what's happening is when you side slip like this, the body, what's it does? It has to adjust the low back to bring your head back to level. Okay. For sure. So then what does that do? That puts stress into your low back. Right. See what I'm saying? So now we have those patients close their eyes. We do an evaluation along with the X-rays and instrumentation. We find out, guess what? They are side slip. There's a right atlas. We come here, we adjust that back, get that back alignment. Guess what can happen now? That body takes that compensatory problem in the low back, releases those muscles, okay, releases that tension in the low back, and the low back pain goes away. Right. Do you see how all that works together? Totally. Because your head's 10 to 12 pounds, and your head is being balanced by the hips, but it's all has to do with the way that the head is orientated onto the neck. Agree. You see what I'm saying? So the head has to be sitting straight onto the spine. If not, you're going to have compensatory problems, pulling of muscles in the low back. They're going to cause chronic low back pain. If you don't get this fixed, what I'm saying is you can hammer away at where that symptom is, where that pain is, and it's going to continue to come back.
Well, it's fascinating too on this subject as well, like the amount of short legs that have been studied where if somebody's standing up to me, the true test of anatomical discrepancies is a short leg. You got to stand. And you take an X-ray of someone's hip, you got hips off. Hey, it's like you got a leaning tower of Pisa.
Right.
And with the same thing, if you got a short leg on the right, then your head is just by way of balance,
Right.
is just going to flex to the left
Right.
to balance it out.
That's right.
I mean, it's crazy.
So that just shows you if the head sits onto those top two vertebrae, how important those alignment of those top two vertebrae are. You see what I'm saying? Because
Absolutely.
that head being balanced by those vertebrae, and if that gets off of alignment, then you create problems with the foundation. And just like you said, that's when you get that leaning tower of Pisa.
For sure.
So,
it's so fascinating to be a student because, this is why I wanted to create this podcast for really myself and to share with everyone else. Like, what is it? How can we think about this? Because there's doctors that are thinking from the bottom up and there's doctors thinking from the top down. And this is where, for me, as just more of an inquisitive person, it's like, well, maybe there's situations where they're both are relevant. Like if you got an anatomically short leg, if you're adjusting, like if I got an anatomically short leg, then I'm going to be leaning this way. My head's going to balance because of the righting reflex, right? It's going to make my head go left. But if I'm not putting like a heel lift in my shoe, then that postural distortion will continue to show up.
okay. But as a upper cervical doctor, I know that there's going to be compensation that NA allows. All I'm worried about is it causing a neurological deficit. See, I'm more concerned about that. If you have an anatomically short leg, you've caused some compensatory problems. All right.
Right.
I don't really care. That's okay. Or a biomechanical issue. I'm more concerned about adaptation, about the physiological aspects of what that has caused. Now, if it's causing a neurological problem, and we've got a delta here again that's set off of 1-2 degrees, or I'm taking a scan, that patient's constantly in what I call a pattern. Okay.
Right.
So that's telling me now something's causing a physiological issue. That's what concerns me as an upper cervical doctor. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
So I'm more concerned again. I guess upper cervical doctors, we're thinking more neurological, and some of your, more general chiropractic doctors are looking at biomechanics and, posture and things like that, which I think all of those are important.
I would say that they're also concerned with neurology as well.
Yes, I hope they are.
As more of a majority, really.
Yeah, I hope they are.
Yeah.
But, the upper cervical doctor, again, I think was really specific about making sure that we know that adaptation is taking place and measuring that. We have a way to measure that.
Right.
And that is the most important thing. So,
I agree. Hey, I'm a huge proponent of X-rays, but only because to me, I feel like I like the idea of checking work. I think that it's nice to know that there is change that is happening.
Well, just remember this. And students, remember I told you this. X-rays, MRIs, CAT scans, with thermology, we have a tool that's let's put it this way. X-ray shows you the anatomy. When anatomy goes wrong, all right? When you start seeing spurs in the spine, etc., lipping in the cervical vertebra, etc. But physiology has went wrong way before anatomy starts going wrong.
I agree.
Okay, you see what I'm saying?
I agree.
So when you take an X-ray, that's half a second in time, and you're looking at the anatomy. But when you start to see problems in the spine, I want you to understand that most of your doctors, your medical doctors, that's the first thing. Oh, let's get an X-ray of the spine. But if you're using instrumentation and you're checking physiology, okay, way before you started having bad anatomy, physiology was going wrong way over here. So that's the advantage that the chiropractic doctor has if they're using instrumentation in their practice, that we can pick up physiology going bad. All right. And if we can correct that, then we can stop the anatomy from going bad. because the head's going to be sitting properly on the spine, okay?
Yeah.
And we're not going to get, it's like this right here. When these vertebrae are locked up, all right, what does the atlas vertebra? It rotates around the odontoid. That's where you get your head rotation, okay?
Right.
90% of it or 80% of it comes from that joint right there. When this is locked up, okay, let's just say this is sitting here and that joint is locked up. Then what happens is the lower cervicals, all right, because the neck muscles are so strong, the lower cervicals have to turn to compensate because this is locked, all right? So now you start getting the lower cervicals turning, and then you start getting arthritic formation, okay? You start getting spurring, lipping, etc. So I can, as soon as I look at a cervical x-ray and I see all that, I already know I'm gonna have a problem up here in this joint because that's where your head rotation comes from. Your cervical lower vertebra, what's that for? It's for flexion and extension. That's where you get most of this. Flexion and extension from your lower cervicals, but here you get your rotation. When that locks up, you're going to have to get compensation. So those muscles in the neck are so strong that those lower cervical vertebrae start to be in a bind, start turning, causes stress there, and it creates issues.
Well, so, this is so important for babies to be adjusted.
Oh yeah.
I mean, to grow. I mean, there are techniques of chiropractic to make sure your kids are growing up healthy. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's my personal belief that, hey, I have an incredible spine. I've been adjusted, like I told you earlier. My Uncle Fred was adjusting me. I was a breech baby, meaning feet first coming out, and he adjusted my mom, and I flipped in her stomach on the table.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And then, a few days, or maybe the first day or second or third day, something like that, after birth, I was being adjusted.
Wow.
So, I believe also that having, like what you're saying, these physiological aspects of health in children is really what causes this degeneration of postural distortions, physiological diseases, like you were talking about. Absolutely. Epilepsy earlier, children who can't latch onto their mother's breast. This is what you're pointing out here. They can't rotate. They're all locked up. I mean, birth. We had a chiropractor who specializes with pregnant mothers, postpartum.
Okay.
I mean, he talks about this all day long. I mean, and for sure, I think, ironically, as a business, if you were just solely concerned about a business, it's almost backwards. Like, the benefit of helping a child, you'd think it'd be millions of dollars because you're preventing a lifetime of illness, sickness, and disease. And in a child, they respond way better to chiropractic than some adults who've just been, they need a few extra visits.
Well, if every chiropractic family was like mine, the medicine would be broke. They'd be broke. Okay. Yeah. I'm just telling you, my children, we didn't take medicine. We didn't go to medical doctors. Okay. And neither my grandchildren. Yeah. So that whole industry would be wiped out. Yeah. Okay. If they believed and they understood the way of real health through what I call, again, the chiropractic or the health trinity. Yeah. Spark, fuel, and air. Getting your adjustments, eating properly, getting your exercise.
Absolutely.
And keeping your children away from packaged food, and we can go into all of that and bagged up food. It's a whole different thing. But right now, I think chiropractic is in a position again where we could embrace those other two areas, not just the adjustment and the neurology. But we've got to get back to. It just seems like that the upper cervical doctors are now really what chiropractic used to be, what chiropractic really used to be 30 years ago, all right? Now it's become so diluted that really it's only these upper cervical doctors that are sticking to the specificity and the true chiropractic values. But there's only so many of us out there, and I'm afraid that if we don't start not converting, but getting our message back out to students like yourself and saying, listen, Dalton, you need to take this into consideration. Why wouldn't you consider all this research?
Absolutely.
Why wouldn't you consider some of the legacies and the what I call the big dogs in chiropractic and what they've done, okay, and impacted how and a testimony from a family of a 65-year-old man that's healthy with children and grandchildren. Yeah. I would listen to that person and say, I'm going to take that into consideration.
Well, absolutely. And this is why we're on this podcast together, to consider all of it. You know what I mean? And in the same way, you know, do you think that what you're saying, you know, you've said multiple times throughout our time together today that, hey, there are people who focus on researching and showing X, Y, and Z. And you want to know about it because, hey, if it's valid and it's right, then why wouldn't you want to use it to help people?
Right.
Exactly.
But what I'm saying too also is with this crusade, the Kale crusade, chiropractic crusade, is that we've got to start getting our hands on people and let the scientists of chiropractic try to figure out exactly what's going on. I may not have enough time. You may not have enough time
is the whole
in your world. Okay.
Right,
You've only got so many years to adjust. Okay. Are you going to, you're going to be one of those that can try to figure it out scientifically? Or are you going to sit there and say, listen, there's a dying world out there that I've got to get my hands on? And so there's a blend of all of us. And that's what you're trying to do. He's trying to pull everybody, the chiropractic doctors that want to be the thinkers, that want to be the scientific minded. Listen, that's the way Lyle Sherman was.
Yeah.
Lyle Sherman was from an engineering background.
Right.
Okay. That's why Dr. Palmer picked him to be his right-hand man, because he knew how smart the man was.
Right.
And, but Dr. Palmer was the adjuster, and Dr. Lyle Sherman was the thinker behind all of this.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So there's a blend of all that, but we need all our chiropractic mentality, okay, together to make this happen. I'm just saying, with the mission that I'm on now, is to get chiropractic doctors that want to get their hands on people, that want to get them adjusted, to show them how can you specifically go out there and start getting your hands on people, adjusting them without hurting them, knowing that you're getting, you're in the area of the brainstem. That's the great switch between God and his man, and opening up that pathway that people can get over whatever dis-ease that they have.
Right, right. Well, I'm curious to know, I'm a business coach with Grant Cardone's team.
Okay.
And we focus a lot on targets. And so I'm curious, what is your vision and your goal for the Crusaders?
Well, first of all, to have a message that's strong enough.
Oh, it's strong enough.
I'm talking about a message that's passionate enough, that's backed up by evidence, not only in my family, okay, but from evidence from the very father
from the beginning.
Okay, from the beginning, to say you cannot dispute this man,
right?
The father of chiropractic. Okay, so we have lost that concept. So to be able to instill that message and say to chiropractic doctors, I agree, no matter what we're thinking about the technique, Randy and Dr. Kale wants to get us together as a chiropractic community and say, we've got to get back to some type of tradition. We can't be so skewed in so many different techniques that the public doesn't understand us anymore.
I say the same thing.
It's about the public. This is why I've come up with the Chiropractic Media Corporation, that we've got to start. And let me just tell you something. When I communicate with my patients, I used to get busted all the time with the chiropractors because I would symptoms, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when your patient comes in with a migraine headache, or they come in with tic-douloureux, or they come in with a condition, I'm sorry, okay? They want to know about that condition. Mm-hmm. So if I have to say in my advertisement that I can help you with this, this, and this, and that, okay, and say, okay, in your ethics stuff, maybe we have to change our dialogue a little bit. My point is, when I communicate with my patient, they're interested in one thing. They have a problem.
Exactly.
Okay? And they don't care about above, down, inside out,
they don't.
innate intelligence, and how that communicates with every 10 trillion cells in our body. If we keep these, that does not mean anything to them. Now, once you get them under your care, okay, and you nourish them, you can start incorporating some of these things and teaching them these things.
Right.
But I believe in your marketing. Back to your point, what is my target? What am I trying to do? I'm trying to adjust the world back to health. I'm trying to get chiropractic back together in a crusade. Here's what I envision when I say spark, fuel, and air. Imagine a coliseum or a place where you've got 5,000 public people, not chiropractors. I'm talking about the public coming into here, spark, fuel, and air. They've got a chiropractic doctor with an understanding that can show them, okay, this is your electrical system, this is spark, okay, and we're the best at this. Let me show you why you need spark, okay, to the community. Yeah. Then you have fuel. You have the best nutritional person. You have the person that understands food better than anybody, a spokesman like Cardone that knows business, okay. Then you have the air person, okay? He's
Yeah.
the trainer that
Yeah.
knows exactly how to get that heart pumping up.
Yeah.
So you walk into this arena, you got your ticket, okay? And you see spark, you see like a lightning bolt. When you're looking at this big screen, it goes down to a sail, okay?
Yeah,
Looks like a sail. Then you get fuel, okay? You're dumping rocket fuel on this sail. Then you get this air, okay? This is big air system, okay? That's going to infuse air down into if you light a fire outside and you take a blower and you add air to that blower, what kind of all right? So you can see the air is coming down here. Then that sail, and that spark hits, when that adjustment hits, and you got the lights off. You go over to a light switch and you do this right here to that light switch. You hit that, next thing that sail goes, comes alive, okay? This whole audience is sitting there looking, oh my gosh, spark, fuel, air.
Yeah.
That's the Trinity. That's the tripod, okay, of our health, all right? It takes all three. It's like God the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. They work together.
Yeah.
Universal intelligence, innate intelligence, and the mental impulse. They work as a Trinity.
Yeah.
So that's where my mission is how do we get that message across that people say, listen, it doesn't matter what I'm practicing. Kale don't matter, okay? It doesn't matter if I'm doing diversified or doing upper cervical. We've got to come together and unite as an understanding of something that makes sense to the public.
I agree.
And then present it to the public and then get them in there. And they'll be excited about chiropractic.
I agree. Hey, the one thing that I feel like the medical system got right was saying, hey, you're a podiatrist, you're a cardiologist, and they have these specialties and delineations, a gastroenterologist, a freaking ophthalmologist, whatever.
Right.
And then in chiropractic, it's like person number one understands chiropractic the way that you
exactly.
And then person number two, and then they call it, that's like my chiropractor. And then person number two, there's no physical contact, and then that's what someone else thinks that the chiropractic is. And then another person goes, well, you get full spine x-rays, it puts you in traction, and then that's what someone else thinks chiropractic is.
Right.
All three of those things are vastly different.
Right.
The essence of chiropractic also is not being communicated in the way that we're talking about it now across all of those. And they could be.
Yeah.
And you could say, hey, it's not to say that somebody, and a chiropractor doing, not touching somebody, couldn't have a conversation with somebody and help them release incredible emotions or traumas, or I think absolutely that's possible.
I agree too.
Yeah. And so the essence of chiropractic is, like you said, this touch, this human connection, and our bodies are able to perceive energy in touch.
Yeah.
So,
in these conferences, and the public's got to start understanding that little things like, why do you got a baby, 9 months, 2 cells together, all right?
Yeah.
And in 9 months, you've created a human being. Now, what I'm saying is chiropractic should be at the point where as we deliver our baby, and then what we do is perfectly healthy, and we hand it off to medicine.
Yeah.
We hand it off to the medical doctors, and what do they start doing? Jabbing here, jabbing here.
Yeah,
now you got 80 vaxes, okay, before they're 13 years old, okay?
Right.
They're giving babies in 24 hours hepatitis shots where the mother doesn't even have any history of hepatitis, and the only way that's transmitted is through needles and through sexual activity.
Right.
Makes no sense to me, okay?
Yeah.
What I'm just saying is the public has to start understanding. Why would you take a perfectly good baby that Mother Nature has created to you?
Yeah.
Now you're passing it off to an educated person, okay?
Yeah.
What did education have to do with 10 trillion cells coming together and making a human being?
Yeah.
People have to start understanding how chiropractors think.
Yeah.
Once they start understanding that, and then they're eating properly, and they're getting out there and they're getting off their butts and starting to move a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Getting their children moving and getting them off their devices.
Yeah.
All right, then you can start changing to the society where they say, listen, the first thing we need to do with our baby is get them to the chiropractic doctor, okay?
Yeah.
Because they're going to get the power turned on. They're going to start telling us how to feed that baby. They're going to start saying, hey, this is what you need to do as far as getting them exercising, et cetera, et cetera. Medicine and the medical profession is for cuts, broken bones, okay? People that have abused their bodies and they have heart disease, and they need a heart surgery, okay? Like that. People that have not listened to spark, fuel, and air their whole life. Now they need the medical profession, okay, for emergencies and to take care of the mistakes that they've made.
Right.
Okay?
Well,
I get that, but if you live a life like I've lived, you don't need that.
Right.
So I
Well,
don't
this
think
is the whole thing. There's got to be a transition, you know?
has to be.
And this is the thing, like, hey, American medicine for emergencies and some crazy surgeries, they're talking about heart replacement valves and all that kind of stuff. Like, some people have lived life, as you said, and hey, you're 50, 60 years old. It's going to take you a second I think it's possible to reverse it back to a place that's healthy. I think it's absolutely possible. It's not going to happen in one adjustment. It's not going to happen you're not going to uncalcify arteries.
Right.
You could change your lifestyle and do that. We've seen it happen.
Right.
But, so this is where it's like, okay, how do we take it from where we're at now? I absolutely believe in the vision, and I'm here with you in the crusade with you in the fight and the blood and the gore. We're here together.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
And I could tell with talking with you and that that's what your mission is.
It is.
It's obvious to me.
Yeah.
And like-minded people have to come together like me and you. And it starts small. Okay. Yeah. We all know that. Dalton.
Yeah.
But I'm just telling you, see, you're young looking at it from this view. Okay. Yeah. I'm up here looking backwards and looking and seeing where it was. Yeah. Here you're looking saying, where can it go?
Yeah.
And so I think with both of our types of understanding and telling other chiropractic doctors that we're in love with you, man. Okay. Yeah. We don't have any problems.
Yeah.
But we've got to have some common ground somewhere. Totally. We've got to meet together and have some type of common ground. And we have to have some respect for some leaders, okay, in our past, okay. Every community that I know of, they have a leader, okay, somewhere. I don't care what community you're talking about. They have someone that they respect, and they say, that person I respect, we got to listen to what he says. Yeah. This man right here knew what he was doing, Dr. B.J. Palmer. Mm-hmm. I believe that. But I also believe we've come to a time now that the diluted part of chiropractic and the understanding, not me, I understand chiropractic, you understand chiropractic, but the public is very confused. Yeah. We have to unconfuse them. If you want to continue to have patients come in for real problems, now if you just want to be a physical therapist and you want to be out there and just do all your therapies and that's all you're concerned about, that's fine.
And it helps people.
It helps people. I'm just saying. But I'm the kind, I want to see the sick people. I want to see the patients that can't be helped by other doctors. That was one of my other slogans. If you've not been helped, if you have a condition that's not been helped by other doctors, call me now. I'd like to speak with you personally.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just saying that's where my practice was built on conditions that's not been helped by other doctors. So I'm just saying we have to kind of get back to some of that tradition.
That's so cool.
We have to blend all this together. We have to come together. But look, we're not making that much leeway. We've had 130 years. We're still so much confusion in the public. Go ask 10 people what chiropractic is. Okay?
Ask 10 chiropractors.
10 chiropractors. They'll give you 10 different answers. When is that going to change? It's going to change when we come together as a community. We start spending some of our money, instead of on stupid stuff, and all these different types of seminars. And let's give in to Chiropractic Media Corporation. Let's give $100, $1,000. Let's get the colleges to start giving in. Let's start giving our patients, start giving into this corporation. It's nonprofit. And let's start seeing chiropractic advertisement on TV. And start promoting it on social media and doing things like you're doing.
That's what we're doing.
And if we do that, what's a little bit, and let's see if we did that in 1 year. If we did that, we got doctors all over the world start committing to giving $100, $200 a month to a corporation that's going to promote your practice and promote chiropractic. Well, give it a year. Let's see what happens.
We know you need tax write-offs. We know you're paying a lot of taxes, which is another conversation. I got another friend that helps you with taxes.
Get him over here and we'll figure all that out. I'm just saying, if you can't commit to what you love, what's it all about? We have to have resources to be able to make a difference in our profession, okay? Totally. And for some reason, it just doesn't seem like the resources for whatever we're giving, whatever I've given to different professional entities, what has it really done? I don't know. I'm confused right now. Mm-hmm. So again, this crusade is about coming together, connecting, and putting our resources together to make an impact to let the public understand chiropractic in the way that it should, and to help chiropractors reach out to all over the world and adjust the world back to health.
That's it. Well, I think we put a bookmark in it. I'd love to get
Okay.
you on again,
That'd be great.
and I'd love to have one just about your faith and coming into who you are and your family. I'd love
Don't
to
even
have
get
you
on that, man. Don't even
That's
get on
what I
that.
said.
Don't even get on that. We'll stay here for a while.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
We should
man.
we'll have it again.
Well, we've got to do that. And like I told you, the biggest thing, I don't think we had this on the podcast, but, I had one of the chiropractors on the internet said, what is in 5 words, tell me what's the most successful thing that you can say. And I told them this, Lord, today I promise obedience. 5 words. Those words right there, talking about my faith, that's meant everything. Lord, today I promise obedience. That's all you got to do is be obedient to your Lord, okay, to your Creator, and you don't have to worry. Let Him handle all the other frustrations of life. All you got to do is be obedient, just like a child's obedient. Guess what you're going to do? Your child, she's obedient, he's obedient. You'll throw favor on them. They'll get what they want if they're obedient. So we don't even get me on that. We'll just have to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But we'll do it next time.
We'll do it again.
All right. It's been nice speaking with you.
Yeah,
Thank you for inviting me.
Appreciate
All right, God
it.
bless you too.
Yeah, totally.
Right. Oh, there we go.
How long was that, Dalton?
That's 2 hours.
2 hours.
There you go. Yeah.